Welcome back to the Beta Console Gamer, and today, my friends, we are going to be breaking down all of the biggest games announced during this week's State of Play presentation. We'll get into all of the highlights and lowlights from the audiovisual offering on display during the October event, before going on to discuss how we feel PlayStation handled the State of Play now that it's rapidly receding in the rearview mirror. But before that, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the new subscribers who took the time to click that big red button over the last month, because I appreciate every damn one of you monsters, and by way of giving back, I'm currently running a giveaway that could see you walk away with your very own copy of Metroid Dread for the OLED Switch. And for more info on how to enter that giveaway and the many to follow, be sure to watch to the end of the video. And now that that's out of the way, let's get onto the highlights from the PlayStation State of Play presentation, starting with the reveal that the indie action-adventure RPG Death's Door is set to make its PlayStation debut on November 23rd later this year. This masterpiece from developers Acid Nerve will see you take control of an enigmatic crow as he battles his way through a land hitherto untouched by death, as you seek to reclaim a soul stolen by an unknown thief. The PS5 version of the game will make the most of the DualSense's haptic feedback capabilities to bring another layer of immersion to combat, whether it be the steady build-up of a spell or the devastating attacks unleashed during a boss fight. PlayStation is determined that you will feel them all. Next up on our list, we got to look at the gameplay mechanics for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, a game that I will not touch because I am a coward, but that will be coming out on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on December 16th later this year. This time around, you step into the shoes of a young boy called Gregory, who has become trapped inside Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizza Complex overnight with a horde of psychopathic, murderous animatronic robots. And that was not a sentence I thought that I'd be saying today. Regardless, the first-person survival horror game will see you desperately attempt to avoid or take down said metallic monstrosities with the use of stealth and combat, and with assistance from the titular Freddy himself, who young Gregory can climb inside and pilot like a freaking mini Gundam to bamboozle his enemies as he attempts to make his way towards an exit. Along the way, you'll have to evade the relentless pursuit of the animatronics Roxy, Chica, and Monty, while also avoiding the attention of lesser robots which will call the big nasties down upon young Gregory should they spot you. Furthermore, according to the blog post released alongside the trailer, the enemies in the game are going to evolve as the night drags on, which means that the closer you get to safety, the more difficult it's going to become. And obviously, on a bigger note, the decision to transition Five Nights at Freddy from a static jump scare game to a fully fledged experience is a huge one, but part of me wonders whether it was an entirely good move. I mean, it was the lack of agency that made the earlier Five Nights at Freddy games such a terrifying experience. You were stuck in a chair until morning, surrounded by dark corridors with nothing but a network of cameras and two doors to protect you from infinite jump scares and a potentially grisly death. By giving the player more agency to, for example, run away from enemies or climb inside a freaking Freddy mecha, you take away that feeling of claustrophobia and helplessness, which could end up making the game less scary and, well, more generic in nature. But either way, I'll never find out because, as I said, I'm a total freaking coward. Next up on our list, we got the reveal of First Class Trouble, a hidden identity game set in the wake of an AI uprising aboard the space cruiser Alithia. The developers describe First Class Trouble as a social deception party game. I describe First Class Trouble as 3D Among Us, which I will likely play once and then never touch again. Like in Among Us, First Class Trouble will initially assign you to be either a resident, read crewmate, or a personoid, by which they mean an imposter. Residents will then strive to shut down the AI at the core of the ship, while personoids will do everything to stop them while avoiding detection and subsequent repercussions. And if that familiar formula sounds like your kind of thing, then you're in luck, as First Class Trouble will be launching onto PlayStation Plus in just a few short weeks on November 2nd. We also got the reveal of the latest title in the long-running JRPG series Star Ocean in the form of Star Ocean: The Divine Force. The game will feature two primary protagonists and a story which will unfold differently depending on the player's choices. In its current state, I'd say that it's looking a little bit rough around the edges, but the blend of futuristic sci-fi and fantasy elements has grabbed my attention. The latest entry into the 25-year-old franchise is set to launch sometime in 2022, and we're reportedly going to get some more info on the game soon, so keep an eye out for that. But moving on, one of the more unexpected highlights from the State of Play was the reveal of free DLC for Bugsnax, which will land in early 2022 and will see the introduction of an entirely new island populated by massive critters, the powerful ability to dress your character up as your favorite Bugsnax, and the chance to decorate your very own hut. Players who have already completed the main game need only load up their saves to experience the new content, at which point they'll be placed before the point of no return. Whereas players jumping into the cannibalistic world for the first time will be fed the Bigsnax update organically as they progress through the story. Now, whilst most of the games showcased during the state of play left me with a feeling of ambivalence, bemusement, and, well, hunger, one of the games did manage to rise above the others, and that game is The Little Devil Inside. Now, I've been looking out for an update on this eclectic little game ever since I first saw it in the June 2020 PlayStation Showcase. That first trailer dripped with character, atmosphere, and humor, and the new trailer has expanded upon that by giving us a look at the wildly differing art styles that make up the game and the charming overworld map. As it starts, the trailer takes us through what appears to be the inciting incident for at least part of the game, which sees the protagonist Billy travel to a creepy-ass mansion to pick up a MacGuffin to deliver to a professor, only to be betrayed by a questionable butler-looking fella in a watery basement and subsequently set upon by monsters. Another sentence that I didn't think I'd be saying. Regardless, as this unfolds, we get a look at the mix of animation styles and menus and game mechanics that will be employed throughout the game. But again, for me it was that melding of incredibly distinct visuals and how they flowed together while maintaining a unified atmosphere that impressed me. I mean, just look at how they transition scenes and animation styles here from the open world map to the more realistic yet still heavily stylized interior of the train. And then upon leaving the train, the characters transition into Russian nesting doll-esque figurines and bounce across the map until they reach a world event and smoothly transition into the main and infinitely charming graphical style of the game. By all rights, this mix of styles should have come across as chaotic and disjointed, but instead, it all just seemed to work. Combat also appears to be satisfyingly weighty and well thought out. Plus, you get to set up a camp and cook food, which I always freaking love in any kind of game, as it builds up that ineffable feeling of comfort and reinforces the notion that you are on a journey and you are hungry. We also got a look at the fantastic Studio Ghibli-esque steam monster, which, along with the tentacles in the pool in the mansion, indicates that we're going to see an interesting array of supernatural enemies step up to and subsequently get hacked up by Billy as the game unfolds. The only negative is that we still haven't been given a release date for Little Devil Inside. All we know is that it's going to come out sometime in 2022, and that if anything at all happens to this donkey, I will personally hunt down and punish every member of the development team. And that's all of the games that I'm specifically highlighting from the state of play. However, there were other games featured in the presentation. Specifically, we got to look at the musical biopic title We Are OFK, the reality show themed multiplayer survival action game Deathverse Let It Die, and Kart Rider Drift, which is essentially a weird Mega Man looking Mario Kart clone. So if anything from that sizzle reel catches your attention, be sure to go and check out the presentation for yourself. But for now, let's get on to talking about how the state of play was in general, because despite the inclusion of some pretty cool games and announcements, it frankly came over as a little bit underwhelming. And the reason for that was, in my opinion, a lack of expectation management on the behalf of Sony. Prior to the state of play, Sony threw up a PlayStation blog post announcing that the presentation would be around 20 minutes long and would focus on upcoming third-party releases heading to the PS4 and PS5, including, and I quote, new looks at previously announced games, plus a few reveals from our partners around the world. And considering that the third-party games coming to the PlayStation include the Harry Potter RPG, Final Fantasy, and Elden Ring, it's understandable that the more passionate members of the gaming community built up some unrealistically high hopes as to what was going to be shown during the event. And that could easily have been avoided if Sony had emphasized that the offering would solely involve smaller third-party games. Beyond that, I'm not even entirely sure that this needed to be a state of play at all. I personally would have dropped the trailers separately as a series of blog posts over the course of a week, which would have emphasized that there's a lot of interesting and eclectic content coming to the PlayStation ecosystem, rather than bundling them all up into a single event, which, to be honest, failed to measure up to previous state of play presentations. Anyway, that's it for my character assassination of this week's State of Play, but before I go, let me quickly fill you in on how to enter this month's giveaway to win Metroid Dread for the OLED Switch. All you need to do is to like this video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought about this episode and which of the games from the presentation you're thinking about giving a try. I'll be letting the winner know next week, but if you don't hear anything, don't worry about it because there's going to be plenty more giveaways in the months to come. And on that note, I'm going to leave it there for today. Be sure to keep it here for all the biggest news, reviews, and roundups from around the video gaming world.